Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, and today's video is going to make you laugh, cry and puke, all for the same low cost. Yes, I know, I am far too good to you guys. This is Carmondain in an extremely tier 8 battle. Check out that matchmaking. Everybody is tier 8, and Carmondain is in the Lorraine 40T, the premium French tier 8 medium tank. Yes, it's an autoloader. This tank has had quite a difficult history in World of Tanks. Originally it was the French non-premium tier 8 medium tank, but that was back in the days when there was no such thing as a tier 10 medium, or even a tier 10 tank destroyer, let alone a tier 10 light tank. The only tier 10s in the game were the heavies. Well, tier 10 mediums, like the E50M and the T62A, were introduced into the game along with tier 10 tank destroyers, but the French just kind of got a new tier 5 instead. The ELC was introduced and everybody else was bumped up a tier, which saw the Batchat become the tier 10, as it is today, and this tank was the French tier 9. And I kind of liked it. I loved the mobility, I loved the firepower. The armour was terrible, of course, but mobility and firepower make up for a lot, and that's something that the Lorraine had in spades. It stayed as a tier 9 medium for quite a while, but then the Batchat 25T AP was introduced, and this was removed, but soon came back in the current form. The tier 8 French medium tank that it always used to be, although this time as a premium. Ballsy position is in here, very aggressive, but then again you can't really be aggressive for long in an autoloader with 4 shots. You get into position, you take your shots, you hope that there's backup, or you turn around and get the hell out of there. It's all good though, the cavalry has arrived. They pushed that enemy LT-432 out of what would have been a very dangerous position if he'd been able to sit there undetected, and while he's waiting out the reload, he's moving up to back up his allies. In fact, we actually have a bit of a mirror match going on here. We've got Carmondain in the Lorraine, there's an enemy Lorraine over there. Carmondain's backed up by an Indian Panzer and an AMX CDC, and there's an enemy AMX CDC and Indian Panzer over there, backed up by this WZ-111-1 fake tank, who, judging by how aggressively he's playing, seems to be confused and think he's in an Object 268. Enemy artillery, however, is also raining down a concentration of fire over here. The AMX CDC was taking the brunt of it. Looks like the EB... Actually, no, the T44. Perfect shot. One shot kill. Bang. Got him. One shot left. Goes for the reload. While he's reloading, it's going to be up to the Indian Panzer and the AMX CDC to hold the front. Although there is a T69 also heading in this direction. The only problem is enemy artillery are still concentrating their fire over here, because, well, if this side of the map falls, artillery know that they're next. Both the Indian Panzer and the CDC are definitely taking artillery hits here, and it looks like they're concentrating their fire on the CDC. His tracks were blown off, it looks like he's just burnt the repair kit. He's not interested in taking another artillery hit. The Indian Panzer is down. The CDC knows he's a one-shot kill. He's not interested in being brave from here on in. So it's going to be up to Carmondain. And that friendly Indian Panzer was taken out by Jagdpanther 2, so there's more opposition up here than they first realised. And the longer Carmondain waits, the more time he's given artillery to reload and subject him to the same treatment that the CDC was just subjected to. Here comes the T69, and the Lorraine and Indian Panzer have fallen right back. And that's actually quite smart. But the CDC has not. Can you get the Lorraine? Yes, okay, that's great news. It cost them the T69, but the T69 did at least manage to take out the enemy AMX CDC before he went down. Unfortunately, the friendly CDC was also killed, so that leaves Carmondain, let me see, one... Yeah, no, that's it, just the one friendly tank left at this end of the map, and he's reloading. And the thing about French autoloaders, and autoloaders in general, is that they're great for lightning-fast strikes. But without support, you cannot hold a position in them. So rather than sit there waiting for the enemy team to come back over that ridge with artillery support, he's just getting the hell out of there. And there's probably a very good chance that anybody on the enemy team surviving on the other side of that ridge is going to be sitting there waiting for him to make his move. So while they're waiting for nothing to happen, this is still a very close match. It could easily go either way. So anybody on the enemy team who's been tricked into watching that ridge isn't shooting at the rest of Carmondain's teammates for the moment. Although somebody is, they keep losing tanks at a tremendous rate. Up until now they've been 1 kill behind, well they've just gone 2 kills behind. They've managed to pull one back, but things are about to get a whole lot worse. The thing is, and this is something that a lot of players in autoloaders don't seem to get, because they just tend to throw away far too much of their health, or their entire tank, in the first half of the match. It's in the second half of a battle like this where the autoloader becomes probably the most dangerous thing on the battlefield. Because it still has the same burst damage output at the end of the match as it does at the beginning of the match, but at this point in a game, most, if not all, of the surviving tanks have taken hits and they're low on health, and where it might be impossible to finish off an enemy tank with one load of the magazine at the beginning of a game, at this point in the match, it becomes not just possible but entirely likely. Young Panther 2 dead, that's the good news. The bad news is Carmondain is now the last actual tank on his team. He only has 2 artillery to back him up. One of those has just been spotted and killed, and there are 5 enemies. Oh, and there's the... not even looking this way. So desperate to get the artillery kill. He's lucky that he's found one of the few things on the battlefield that he can actually do substantial damage to with a RAM. He's knocked out 2 of its wheels. Where's your mobility now, shithead? Just waiting for the reload. Got him. But he is now the last tank left alive on his team. And here comes the Indian Panzer. Now, he can kill the Indian Panzer with 3 shots, but they all have to penetrate. There's 1. I thought he was going to try to ram, but that wouldn't have been smart. He takes the hit. There's 2. He's going to get the 3rd shot off before the Indian Panzer can reload. Last tank left alive on his team against 3 enemies, but 2 of them are artillery. And since dealing with the EBR, they've had plenty of time to reload and hit him again. So, good news, still alive. Bad news, he's up against 3 enemies, one of whom is a more or less full health VK101P, backed up by 2 artillery. He has less than 300 health remaining, which means he's a one-shot kill for everything on the enemy team. So what are you going to do? How are you going to win this? Well, you could kill them all, I suppose, but you could also try capping. No, don't laugh. It might work. I mean, the enemy VK appears to be heading for Carmondain's cap, and is going to be too slow to make it back, but all it takes is 1 artillery player on the enemy team who hasn't bothered to move more than 30 metres from his start position. There's the VK. Yeah, it would not do to get spotted by him. Want to get some damage into him, but not if it's going to cost you your tank. And sitting in the open like this, that would not be a good idea. Going for the cap is just far too risky. Because, like I said, if there's just 1... I mean, what are the odds of an artillery player not moving more than 30 metres from his start point during the entire course of a game? I'd say the chances of that were pretty good. And if there's just 1 artillery player sitting in the bushes around here or here, going for the cap is suicide. That would be the dictionary definition of a bad idea. But what else is he going to do? Well, he's going to have to kill everything, isn't he? The problem here, of course, is that he's a one-shot kill for everything remaining on the enemy team. Against all the odds, the VK still has almost all of his health intact at this stage of a battle, which means he's either really good or he's really bad. But more importantly, it means that Carmondain can't clip him, he can't execute him with 1 reload of the magazine. He just has too much health remaining, and the second he starts shooting the VK will see him, and artillery will be all over him if the VK isn't. Oh, speaking of the VK, it looks like he's not going for the cap. Oh shit, he's been spotted. Now is not the time to try to get a shot off at the VK. He has to just lose him, while avoiding being shot at by artillery. If he's going to win this, he's pretty much going to have to kill everything left alive. Oh, bollocks. Could have done without that. He now has 105 health. But he doesn't know where at least 1 of the artillery are. They're down there by the river. That's where the shot came from. Well, we'll just stick that one in the pocket for future use. At the moment, it's much more important to go dark. If they know where he is, he's a dead man. So, assuming that the VK is still chasing him, and praying that the VK doesn't double back and come around this way, because if he does, Carmondain's dead and this match is over. And he hasn't. So he did take the bait. And there's the other artillery. And he appears to be just outside of view range. You see, it's important that Carmondain kills the 3 surviving enemies without being spotted. It's going to take 2 shots. And the first 2 missed. He has to kill him with this reload. And then get the hell out of here. And he's done it. And there's the top gun into the bargain. Now, any competent player could make an educated guess as to where those shots came from, based on where he was going, and the fact that that artillery just got killed. So this is the one advantage that he does have. Vastly superior speed and mobility. So the trick is to figure out where the enemy thinks you are, and then don't be there. Just be anywhere else. But try to be anywhere else without driving through the enemy as they come to investigate where you want them to think you were. Because that would be bad. Although Carmondain does now have another option, because that enemy VK isn't capping, and Carmondain's right next to the enemy cap circle, so if he was to hang a left turn here, he could potentially win by capping out. But it's risky as all hell, not just because the enemy artillery just has to splash him to kill him, but also because the VK on the enemy team is not capping. It's a slow tank, but it's had all the time in the world to reach Carmondain's cap circle by now, and yet he isn't capping. So he could be halfway back over here by now for all we know, in which case he could make it back to the cap circle before Carmondain caps out. And it's just not worth the risk. Now, remember when Carmondain took that last hit from artillery? He came from this direction, so he's got to be down here next to the river. And there he is. The problem is that perched on open ground like this, Carmondain cannot afford to be spotted executing that last artillery. And he did not get spotted. Now, the artillery didn't see him, because artillery has terrible view range, but the VK didn't see him either, which means that the VK is also not in direct line of sight, and not within the VK's view range. So that's useful information to have. Is the VK doubling back to his own cap circle? Actually, well, that answers that question. The VK, don't know what he's been doing in the meantime, because if he planned to win by capping, he could have been in Carmondain's cap circle at least a minute ago, but he's finally decided, and it's the right decision, because if you're in a heavy tank with a top speed of 20 kilometers per hour, chasing a Lorraine 40T around the map trying to catch him is, you're just on a quick road to nowhere. So this is the smart thing to do. Sit in the cap circle and make the lightly armoured medium tank, who's a one-shot kill, come to you. It doesn't matter if Carmondain gets the first shot, or even the first 2 shots, or even the first 4 shots off. He doesn't have enough firepower in one full load to take out the VK. And he's going to have to fire 4 shots without being spotted, reload, and then fire another 4 shots without being spotted in order to kill the VK. And approaching this cap circle, this is the only spot you can do that and get the first shot off undetected. I don't have any explanation as to why the VK has his gun and turret pointed towards the bottom left corner of the map. I'm not entirely sure what kind of trouble he's expecting from that direction. And while that is kind of amusing, what bemuses me is how can this guy not know where these shots are coming from? I mean, a couple of years ago, you didn't get the on-screen indicators giving you the exact vector of the incoming fire, telling you exactly which way to point your gun and turret. But even a couple of years ago, this bush right here, next to this rock and this tree, was the most obvious sniping spot for anybody trying to reset that cap. But he doesn't even have that excuse, because you do have the on-screen indicator. You were just shot for this amount of damage from that direction by the Lorraine 40T. And yet, even with that information, the VK is still sitting broadside on with his gun pointing in the completely wrong direction. I think he's looking up to the northwestern end of the map now. Wow. That wasn't a bot, by the way. A bot wouldn't have been that bad. I'm not trying to take anything away from Carmondain here. That was an exceptionally well-played game in the Lorraine 40T, and a very close match, right up until the last 3 or 4 minutes when it became a very, very tough match to win. And he did very well to win it, but what was going on? I mean, he did everything right, but if the VK player had been capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, despite the fact that Carmondain did do everything right, there's just no way he should have won and survived the match. All I can suggest here, I mean, on the one hand, I'm kind of shocked that the VK wasn't even the worst player on his team. Here's my recommendation, because I think this is what must have happened. I realise that this player is named after a place in the USA, but I have no idea how to pronounce it. Allegheny, whatever. You need to log out of your World of Tanks account when you go to work, okay? Don't leave the game logged in and the computer unattended, because I think your 2-year-old daughter has been playing your account. It's the only explanation that makes any kind of sense. Word to the wise, always log out your World of Tanks account when the PC's left unattended. Carmondain, of course, isn't complaining, because without this guy's 2-year-old daughter taking over the controls of his tank while he was at work, there is no way he would have been able to pull off that Kolobanov's medal. But he did, or at least, giving him the benefit of the doubt here. I hope that's the explanation, because if that was the guy himself playing the tank, I can't even begin to imagine how long it took him to fail his way to tier 8 playing like that. But either way, it was a win for Carmondain, and hopefully an amusing conclusion, as well as an exciting and interesting match for you all to watch. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.